So congratulations, Abigail, have you learned how to bake your pies yet? Ben kidded at his friend once again. Ben, you're not original. The second year, the same stupid question. Change your record. You used to devour my delicious pies back in 5th grade. Abigail countered, a great cook should be able to do a little bit more, which is what I'm learning. At least I go to culinary school and almost got a profession. And what about you? Did you manage to get into college before the army? She asked, knowing perfectly well that Ben had failed the entrance exams for the university in the capital. Now you'll be going to the army. Abigail continued to lecture him. You'll come back with nothing. No profession, no education, and you only know how to make fun of others. Ben didn't take offense. Growing up in worker barracks, they were used to sniping and teasing each other without malice. During the last years, this style of communication had also become a kind of safety net for both of them to avoid getting too close, something they both wanted and feared deep down. Abigail's father was disabled. He had been seriously injured at the factory, and as a result, he limped badly and worked as a night watchman. When he used to return home from his shift, he never saw his wife, who worked at the library since early morning. Abigail used to meet her father before school, feed him with what her mother had prepared in advance, and then started cooking herself to help her mother. Abigail cooked her first soup at the age of 11. She liked that her cooking was praised, liked to treat the neighbors, feed her father and all people in general, so she decided to find a culinary school to become a first-class chef. Abigail dreamed of working in a prestigious restaurant where visitors would admire the chef's art and would invite her to the hall to thank her. She often imagined their surprise when a petite, cute girl would come out instead of a big, chubby man. This with these plans in mind. Abigail graduated with honors and went to Cafe Antoinette's, where they were looking for a cook. It's okay, she told herself. The path to a Michelin star goes through bistros and fast food joints. I'll be able to showcase my talent anywhere. Abigail passed a rigorous test given by Antoinette, the owner of this and a few other small but popular cafes in the city with flying colors. However, to her surprise, the owner still took her only on probation. This is something we do here. Once he knew that Abigail was waiting for a boyfriend from the army, the young director tried to court Abigail. But to his surprise, she rejected him, not wanting to anger the son of the cafe owner. Abigail showed Gavin a portrait of the brave Ben in his paratrooper uniform and explained that she was engaged to him and that they would marry immediately after his return. Abigail did not lie. She told Ben herself that she loved him and would wait for him. He was happy and he wrote her tender letters. No matter how tired she was after work, she always answered him immediately. On the day Abigail showed Gavin a photo of her fiancé, he immediately became more serious and said convincingly, "Okay, I understand. Rissy courts of culture and ex-soldier's fiancé is sacred to me." Abigail did not know then that Gavin was easily able not only to shower her with compliments, but to feign respect for her feelings for another mare. He already had a plan, and he was not used to receiving refusals. A convenient opportunity soon presented itself to Gavin. Or rather, it wasn't a coincidence. It was well organized. Gavin's birthday party is tomorrow. He's turning 25. The cafe will be closed on that day. Here's the menu so that everything is ready by 7 p.m. Antoinette gave instructions the day before that fateful evening. We're celebrating at the Dicha. Abigail will serve the guests and payment is double the rate. But you will have to be on top of your game, the hostess said, already addressing Abigail. Our guests are not like those who give you the crumpled dollars here. Well, crumpled or not. Abigail was happy to be a waitress. It was easier for her and more lucrative. As for her dream, well, it would come true, maybe even faster. Abigail lived very frugally, saving money and dreaming of her own little culinary business with Ben. He'll be surprised when he takes the bride with a decent dowry, Abigail thought. Thinking and dreaming like this, Abigail was getting ready for her first banquet ever. It didn't matter that she was just a waitress for now. Everything was ahead of her. It was hard to call what was happening at the Dacha A banquet. There were only Gavin's friends with their girlfriends. Gavin didn't have a girlfriend for some reason, and it not only put Abigail on her guard, but reassured her. That means he's not really a playboy and takes choosing a partner seriously. Seriously, he doesn't need a girlfriend for now. Meanwhile, Gavin seemed somehow sad and Abigail pitied him a little. At the birthday party, everyone was in pairs, kissing, hugging, and sneaking off into the alleys and the house. See, nobody loves me. Abigail, he sighed, sitting down at the table that was empty by the end of the party, from which Abigail was collecting plates. So come on, you're a good man. The kind girl began to console the birthday boy, and it's right to be strict. You can't do without strictness in our business, and believe me, someone will love you too when the time comes. Because I believe you, Gavin continued sadly. Then he asked sympathetically, are you tired? Abigail is yes a little, but compared to the kitchen. That's right. I almost passed out there myself, remember? Yes, of course. Thank you for the offer. I'm pleased with my new job. Let's have a drink, Gavin suggested. So I'm sorry, but I'm at work and I don't drink at all. Just one cocktail, please. Here, sit down. Forget that you're at work now. Just be my guest for 5 minutes, okay? The birthday boy continued affectionately. I had no one to talk today. Sit and I'll take care of you now. And make you such a cocktail. You've never tried anything like it before. The cocktail did indeed have some unusual taste, but unlike the cooking, Abigail wasn't very knowledgeable about drinks. 10 minutes later, she felt her head spinning strangely. The girl regained consciousness the following morning, alone in bed and without clothes. Abigail had no doubt about what had happened to her. Now that Gavin was not in the room, just with tears in her eyes, the girl was gathering her belongings around the room. Suddenly, she heard footsteps in the house. Gavin, Abigail thought, dressing quickly. How could he? It's what a fool I am. But instead of Gavin, Antoinette appeared in the bedroom. Oh, it's you. So this is what you do. Were you sent here to serve guests at the table or in bed? How many did you serve in one night? Did you make a lot of money? Keep it up then, but there is no place for cheap girls in my cafe. You won't get paid for yesterday, and don't count on severance pay either. The poor girl couldn't find her other shoe and purse. She couldn't leave without them, so she had to listen to her boss while she searched for them. Finally, she found her shoe. She found her shoe under the bed, and the purse was in the bathroom. She fled from the cursed house and hitchhiked on the highway. What should she do next? How should she live? Should she confess or pretend that nothing happened? It's okay. Abigail calmed herself. I'll think of something. I won't write anything to Ben. It's not easy for him in the army either. I'll find another job and wait for him. She didn't tell her parents anything either, explaining that she no longer wanted to be a waitress. However, she planned to look for a job as a cook assistant, preferably in a decent establishment. And as a result, Abigail decided to move to the capital. She couldn't stay in her hometown after what had happened, and there were no prospects. Her persistent job search paid off. She was hired as an assistant cook at a charming family restaurant. They even provided her with a small room near the restaurant. The elderly chef and owner, Harrison, immediately appreciated Abigail's skills and her burning desire to learn all the intricacies of their craft. He was happy to share his secrets with her. This restaurant was his favorite and only offspring, and Harrison saw in Abigail a worthy replacement for himself, as he was no longer young. The probationary period flew by unnoticed, and Abigail became a full-fledged assistant to the chef. At first, she was timid under the scrutinizing gaze of Gwen, Harrison's wife. However, the girl quickly understood that behind the external severity lay a kind and gentle soul of a middle-aged, childless woman hidden from outsiders. And soon, one event happened that radically changed Abigail's fate. Since morning, she was not feeling well. The smell of the kitchen finally made the girl ill. Lamping her mouth, she ran to the staff bathroom. The experienced Gwen assessed the situation with her trained eye. Come on, girl, don't play games, she said quietly when Abigail came out of the restroom blushing. Are you pregnant? What are you talking about? Gwen, my fiancé is in the army and I haven't been with anyone else. Abigail faltered and remembered her recent past. Bursting into tears, she told this practically unknown woman about what she didn't dare to tell her mother or father. At Gwen's advice, Abigail purchased a pregnancy test at a nearby pharmacy. The two stripes left no doubt that she was pregnant. But what are you going to do? Greg DCP scales? I don't want this child. His father is a scoundrel. Gwen, please tell me how to get rid of it quietly. Where should I go? To the hospital? I'll tell you. Gwen said, but first, Miguel, listen to me. I was also a fool like you once and got pregnant by my own stupidity at 19. I thought it was too early, so I went to the hospital and God punished me for that because he didn't give me any more children, and my Harrison wanted kids so badly. Abigail looked at Gwen in surprise. Yes, my dear. I was young and wondered what to do with a child at that point. We had just started to stand on our own 2 feet. I'd done that without listening to my husband. He was upset with me for a long time, but eventually forgave me. But what's the use? I will never forgive myself, and I won't let you do it either. Do you hear me? I won't take my eyes off you, at work or at home. And when you give birth, we'll help. Do come back home. They won't let you live there peacefully with the child. Ben's mother will start ruining your life because you betrayed her son, in her opinion. You don't need this now. You'll figure it out later. Life is long, believe me. And so they did. Eventually, Abigail had to confess to her parents, who were anxious about why their daughter had completely forgotten about them, and she couldn't hide her growing belly anymore. Her mother cried, her father sighed, but with the mother-in-law was a very unpleasant conversation. Sensing trouble, she went to the capital, found the restaurant where Abigail was working, and burst into the kitchen. Seeing Abigail's rounded waistline, she screamed in disgust. "Oh, you're such a wretch. That's the way you're waiting for my Ben, huh? And I see now why your mother doesn't look into my eyes. Forget about my son once and for all. I'll owe everything to him as it is." Soon Ben's farewell letter arrived. He didn't judge her, but he didn't want to know her anymore and wished her happiness. And happiness came to Abigail, though it was difficult and hard one. But is there any other way? Happiness came with the birth of her daughter, with her beloved job, which Abigail didn't give up before or after giving birth, with her parents, those who gave her life, and those who practically saved life to her little girl. Just over time, Abigail became the head chef of the family restaurant, and then the full-fledged owner. Her named parents passed away with a difference of just over a month, just 6 months short of their golden wedding anniversary. They both passed very suddenly, but without suffering, leaving all their property, restaurant, and apartment to their named daughter Abigail in their will. Abigail's biological parents were also no longer alive, but she had her daughter Haley. As befits a modern 20-year-old girl, she was a student athlete and beauty, and she already had a fiancé. However, there were no changes in Abigail's personal life. No, of course she wasn't a nun, and she had romances, some relationships in her life, but she either wasn't proposed to, or she didn't want to marry those who proposed to her. But frankly speaking, she was proposed to often. She was beautiful, had money, an apartment in the capital, a restaurant, but her heart was silent. She even went with a friend to a famous fortune teller once. "You'll have a meeting waiting for you," the fortune teller confidently said, "very soon." Abigail even laughed. "The kind of a meeting do I need when I have plenty of meetings in the restaurant?" And the next day, Ben came to her to apply for a job as a driver. Hay, as it turns out, also lived in the capital, but recently he moved here after divorcing his wife, leaving her the apartment in their hometown. Abigail and Ben had forgiven each other long ago. Of course, after all these years, what could they share except the rest of their lives? Half a year later, Ben and Abigail decided to live together. He quickly grasped all the nuances of her business and became her manager. Haley studied in another city. Every day, she and Abigail would video call each other and share details about their day. It was during one of these calls that Haley found out about Ben, a new employee at the restaurant who happened to be a longtime acquaintance of her mother's, and with whom she grew up together and even loved since childhood. As Abigail never told her daughter about her father, Haley understood it all in her own way. His mom just admitted it. "Ben is my dad. And why didn't he marry you before, but only now accidentally found you? Of course, now that you have restaurants, apartments, he left you then, didn't he?" Abigail had to reveal the whole truth to her adult daughter. She explained that Haley's biological father had succumbed to drug addiction and spent all of his money before dying from an overdose several years ago. Haley's grandmother, Antoinette, had died earlier from a heart attack, unable to survive bankruptcy. Abigail knew all of this because she regularly traveled to her hometown, first to visit her parents, then to clean up their graves. Haley listened to her mother. It seemed to her that she wasn't telling her life to her, but some kind of soap opera or a woman's novel. But Haley was young and didn't yet understand how complex life can be. When she returned from college on vacation and learned that her mother and Ben were living together, she teased them. "You're really something, at 40 years of age, to get married." "We're not old people at all," Abigail smiled. "Wait and see, we'll give you a little brother in 8 months, and you'll be able to babysit." Ben's face lit up with joy. This was news that Abigail had been keeping from him, waiting for Haley's arrival to share it as a surprise. Ben hugged his beloved and whispered that he loved her very much. Ben and Abigail were happy because life only begins at 40. However, that's another story.